I'm Dr. Mark Kersten, and I come from the Munk School of Global Affairs, where I'm a research fellow. So my research focuses primarily on the effects of interventions by the International Criminal Court on conflict resolution and peace processes. So what I'll be presenting, and what I'm going to present, is how interventions by the International Criminal Court actually affect the attitudes and incentives and behaviors of those individuals that the court doesn't target. So what we see in the literature and what observers are really interested in is how being indicted by the International Criminal Court affects the court's targets, which is unsurprising and makes sense. But what I'm really trying to get at is what happens to the interests and incentives that those who aren't targeted have towards peace negotiations and to ending war through peaceful means. And I think this is particularly important because what we see, generally speaking, with interventions by the ICC is a very asymmetrical attribution of responsibility. So we tend to see only one side of a conflict being targeted and not the other. So again, I'm really interested in what happens to that side that isn't targeted by the International Criminal Court and how that feeds into a potential peace process. And I think it's a particularly important story to tell, one, because it isn't a story that gets nearly enough attention, and two, because I think it highlights the need for more impartial and balanced approaches to justice and accountability in the context of ongoing and active conflict. I think what we see today is an increasing expectation that justice and accountability be pursued in any situation of large-scale political conflict, in any situation of large-scale violence, and certainly in any situation where mass atrocities have been perpetrated. Now, this expectation isn't currently being met by institutions like the International Criminal Court. There are various challenges and obstacles towards justice and accountability for mass atrocities and international crimes. However, I think there has been an increased propensity of judicial institutions to intervene when conflicts are ongoing and active. And this creates a series of dilemmas and potential challenges. Because unlike previously in history, when we've seen judicial activity and accountability for war criminals, for example, after a war has concluded, what we're seeing now is the conflation of conflict and justice processes. So they're being pursued simultaneously. So the real question here is, what effect does pursuing justice have on the potential to establish and maintain peace in situations, again, that have active warfare? And so I'm particularly interested in this dilemma, which many people refer to as peace versus justice. I think that puts it in far too binary of terms, but I'm really interested in how, again, processes of justice and accountability actually affect the actors on the ground and their attitudes, their incentives towards negotiating peace and therefore ending war peacefully and without further violence.